Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Todd Giannattasio. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you very much, Rocky. I'm excited to be here.
And I'm excited to learn from you today. So let's just talk a little bit. Can you tell us about your business and where you're at today?
Sure. So my name's Todd Giannattasio. I'm the founder of Tresnick Media. We're a digital marketing agency specifically helping entrepreneurs use their passion and expertise to take control of growing their business. And I started the agency back in 2011 when I kind of quit my corporate job, winged it for a little while, and went through that rough patch of finances, mindset, that what am I doing here? How do I handle all this stuff? And then Hurricane Sandy came and wiped out all my clients for a couple months. I'm here in New Jersey. And so everything was shut down. And that really made me get hyper focused on taking control of my own business growth and kind of getting a grip on everything that's going on. I discovered the book Profit First. And that really helped me, figure out what am I supposed to be doing with my money so that I'm not screwing myself all the time with everything. And from there kind of got a foothold on attracting clients, getting a better management on my money so I could hire people, get an office, when offices were a thing and kind of go from there and grow everything. So that's kind of the high level journey that I went through and where we're at today. And
we'll dig into all of that in much more detail. Is there a particular niche that you serve with your digital agency?
We really like working directly with entrepreneurs. So, if it's startup founders, solopreneurs, or growing small businesses, I left the corporate world to start my agency because I was a cog in the machine and I was doing similar things. I worked in interactive communication, building websites, email marketing, social, etc. But I was doing things and who knows if they ever worked or what happened because I worked at the largest chemical company in the world. So, to say if I did anything or not, did it make an impact? Who knew? So now we really like to work directly where when I put my foot on the pedal, the car goes fast and we can really make things happen and have an impact. So, we like working with those kind of business owners and entrepreneurs who like to be involved in growing their own business, not some kind of corporate where we're, working with a whole team of different people passed around and things take forever to make changes and all that kind of thing.
So you can actually see the results that you're providing your customers quickly, and they can make wise financial decisions up front to say, this is working, this is not working, let's do the right thing, or let's stop this and let's pivot and shift to what's
that's actually perfect. And I don't know if that's because you did your homework or we're just in sync on this, but that's exactly how we start all of our engagements is really with what I call a minimum launchable funnel. And a lot of marketing companies will start with, doing just a bunch of different activities. And when you start doing too much, it's the same thing with money. When you're doing too much, you can't figure out what's working, what's not, and what to change. And it's funny that how parallel those two things are, because when we start, we want to do exactly what you just said. Keep it simple. Like let's set up a 4-step system and let's do an activity at each stage so we can say, did this activity work to make it to the next step? And if so, great. If not, let's make an adjustment. And I think, it's a perfect alignment to the financial management stuff. And I hadn't even thought about that till you just said it.
And it's true, because if I start 4 projects, I don't know which one of those projects is giving me my revenue. And the chances are one of them is, and 3 of them are a waste of money.
Yeah.
And you can't do that when you just kind of throw it all up against the wall and hope for the best. So that's awesome that you do things that way. So let's kind of take a step back. You leave corporate in 2011. You started your company. And I know you said you got some bad accounting and financial management advice. So what was that advice and why was it bad?
Sure. So I had a family friend of mine who's one of my dad's friends recommended his accountant who was great. And we met. He helped me get set up initially. And he seemed like a good guy. First year was fine. And then the second year, and, I forget I was 25, 26, and, I wasn't really thinking about this kind of stuff. I'm just like, I have an accountant. Everything's taken care of, right? And so April 15th comes and goes, and I reach out and I'm like, hey, guys, I know businesses might be on a slightly different schedule, but were we supposed to get the taxes paid out and everything? And they were like, oh, yeah, overwhelmed, busy, something or other. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is not a good situation. So from there, I went to, another accountant recommended by a family friend, but not someone who works with business owners. And so I went to them just to get things cleaned up and paid for. And obviously, I wasn't saving properly and all that kind of stuff. And so this new accountant says, okay, here's how much you owe. And I forget what it was, $10,000 or something like that. And I said, okay, well, I don't have $10,000 saved for this. So what am I supposed to do? And they said, well, you can go on a payment plan. I said, great. Well, you have access to all my bank accounts and you see my complete financial situation. What do you recommend that I do? And they said, well, how much do you want to pay? I said, well, what's the lowest I can pay? And they said, well, you can go on a payment plan and pay, it was like $37 a month or $41 a month. And I said, okay, that sounds good, but is it never going to get paid off? Like, how am I going to pay it off? Like, why am I asking you this question? And they said, well, yeah, no, it would take pretty much forever if that's how you did it. I said, well, then why is that the number you recommended for me? Right. Like, and so, again, I had them just set up the payment plans and got started there. And then I went to a close family friend who I didn't want to work with because of how close we are as a family. And I said, look, Mike, I need you to he's a total buttoned up, everything's perfectly clean situation. I'm like, we need to just really clean up what's going on here because the last couple of years are just very screwy. I didn't save enough and this payment plan doesn't make any damn sense. Like, what do I do? And he's, a traditional kind of old school accountant guy. So he helped get all that stuff squared away, gave me some basic estimates, which worked for the first year. But, projections, especially when you're a growing small business, my estimates from last year are not the same as what they should be this year. So I was a little bit behind at the time, but it wasn't too bad. And that's when Profit First came out and I read that and I was like, all right, every time a check comes in, I'm putting 20% into a separate account. Like that's just how it rolls. So now for however many years it's been now, every Friday I look, how much was deposited into the main account? 20%, boom, put that into tax savings. And that's just the brackets that I fall into. So whatever your businesses are all different, obviously. But
so you went through 3 accountants and all 3 didn't give you phenomenal financial advice. And here's the thing I want people to understand. Just because somebody is an accountant or a CPA doesn't mean they understand the business of business. They know how to take numbers and put them on tax returns and how to file paperwork and reports. I can say this because my wife is a CPA. She does this. I know the inside stories of how they are. And the reality is most people just don't understand the business of business. It takes a rare person who understands it especially in the way an entrepreneur understands it, and then also understands business growth, because what you experienced was rapid growth. And when you have rapid growth, your accountant's projections don't keep up with reality. Right. And we've talked about one of the people that I've shared in the past, Mike, who got a 6-figure tax bill at the end of the year because of rapid growth. And he was able to stroke a check because he did what you did. He prepared for that, which is phenomenal. So you're doing the right things. And I gotta say, like the stress for the first couple years when I wasn't saving properly was just like, oh, how much is it going to be? I can't, like, oh, am I going to have enough? And then it would wipe out my savings. And if I was lucky, it would wipe out my savings, right? And now that I don't fear the answer from my accountant when he says, hey, here's what the O is. Great. Direct, not deposit, the direct payment, whatever, out of the account. I'm like, it's all there. No worries. And actually I overestimate now my savings. So I end up with, a little bit of, disposable cash there at the end, which is great. But the fact, like, just comparing how I feel where I don't care what number he tells me because I know it's taken care of ahead of time is liberating is probably the best word to say, but like it was relief at first, and now it's just like, great. I know, like, no worry, that weight, like the weight that used to just bury me waiting for that number, and now to be able to just, like you said before, stroke a check, like
all right, it's all good. And knowing this isn't in my checking account where every week I'm looking and I'm like, oh, well, I could spend it on this, or, I know I'll make it up next month or something like that, where like that money doesn't exist in my mind. Like every Friday transfers out, it's gone.
And that's the key. Number one, hide it from ourselves so we remove temptation, and that's a big part of it. We all hate to pay taxes. There's no doubt about that. But when we can pay them without anxiety, it's phenomenal. Yeah. And the cool thing is, once you're done paying taxes, hey, there's leftover money, I get a bonus. So tax day bonus is phenomenal. As with all businesses, and people just like, last year, everyone looked at me like, what do you mean we have to prepare for storms? What are storms? I've never heard of storms, right? Storms come all the time. You hit a very different storm, right? So what storm did you hit and what happened?
The Hurricane Sandy storm, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, the literal storm really hit. And so for those not familiar with what happened in our region at the time, Hurricane Sandy wiped out like essentially the tri-state area, New Jersey, New York. I had clients in the city who, their offices were gone for 6 months, and their phone systems were down. They were just shut. Everybody shut down. All businesses that were in physical locations. And this is 2012, which is, think about everything that happened in 2020. People were much more prepared to be virtual than in 2012. That was not a thing, right? And so, most of my clients were just said, we'll be back in a few months, I guess. But, we don't have much for, in terms of marketing stuff that you can do because we're not operating right now. And, again, that kind of had me screwed, where that was a transition where, although being a marketing professional, I started my business. I joined a B&I group and was doing the local breakfast thing, networking thing every week at different places and kind of just doing small things. And that was how I was getting my clients through those referrals. Even though for my clients, I had been doing proper online presence, built, publisher expertise, like I talked about before, like what I love is that the passionate expert entrepreneur. And so that's how we help people market their business. And so, but cobbler shoes, I'm busy taking care of all my clients. So I never did the things I needed to do. And so when the clients were down, I was like, all right, it's time to drink the Kool-Aid. And over the course of 5 weeks, I published and promoted 2 new articles every single day. And what I did was essentially I took a list, and this is, I recommend anybody, listening here, this is what I recommend to everybody is, what were the most common questions that I would get at those networking meetings or from my existing clients or from prospects? What is it that people are looking for when they're talking to people like me? And I wrote an article 2 articles every day answering one specific question. I would publish it. The promotion was a little different in 2012. Obviously, I would go through, all across social. It was different socials at the time. Same thing holds true now. And adding new connections, and literally over the course of that 5 weeks, I had a typical small business website that nobody, no advertising, and I got 200 visitors a month. Probably half of them were me when I would go to change something. And over that 5 weeks, I soared, and we ended up with over 8,000 visitors in that month, all over the country. And remember, like, my storm was just in New Jersey, so it wasn't a national crisis. So then we got clients from San Diego, Houston, Utah, Massachusetts, Florida, all started finding me either through social because they're seeing people sharing the expert content that I was putting out, or because my Google ranking shot up so high because I was publishing, optimized and quality content. And so that really was the change for that. At the same time as knowing I needed a better system for getting my own clients, which is what I implemented for that. It also was, well, crap, like I barely had enough money to get through without new clients coming in. And so figuring out like, okay, we need to kind of save, and how much am I charging people? I charge enough for myself to make money, but I need to be hiring people to be executing on this work. So now we need to understand, how do we increase our prices to cover a person's time that I hire? And okay, now I got 3 people and we're working out of my 1.5 bedroom apartment. We need to get an office space. How do you plan for that? And again, managing the increase in your prices and how you charge and all that kind of stuff. And okay, cool. We got a website project that took 5 weeks and then that revenue's gone. How do we make sure we're getting recurring revenue from clients and all that kind of stuff? And so that kind of knocking me down on the mat from the hurricane really woke me up, where, was fortunate for me that I was able to get up much stronger and learn from that at the time and kind of get my act together.
And it's true. We learn in the valley. We don't learn on the top of the mountain, right? And so we have to go through the struggles. We have to accept the struggles, but use the struggles to make yourself stronger. And as a matter of fact, I remember, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he had a pool company. And in the recession of 2008, 2009, he used the same exact principles you did to take
Marcus Sheridan is his name.
And he would answer all these questions about pools. And so people would go there and learn that he was the expert, and he was treating them with respect. He was telling them the truth. He was telling them both sides of the story. And so he really helped people to make great decisions. And so that is a strategy that works in any business. Share your expertise, let people know about it, and they will look at you as the expert and realize, hey, I need help, and I want to put somebody like that on my team to help me do it. So we're hitting another storm today. This storm is hitting the entire world, not just the New York metropolitan area. How are you handling the COVID storm?
You know, it's interesting because there's kind of been a split in the business world where there's, you know, a major portion of people just can't hang in this situation and they dropped. And then there's another portion where their business model, or, you know, they're, you know, like Zoom, for instance, obviously they soared. So there's certain types of businesses who take off. And then there's the people in the middle where how can you weather this storm without sinking and just make it through, right? Like that's what people are just trying to make it through this. And it goes back to exactly what you were just saying, is showing up and being helpful. And so, you know, what we advised right out of the gate was to just show up and be helpful. And if you can use this downtime, similar to what I did in 2012, if you can use the downtime to create content that helps you help other people at scale, right? Like, yeah, we can all do one-on-one Zoom calls all day. And how many people did you help? 5. But if you can figure out a way to create content as an asset, you can leverage, where if you publish a blog post, if you publish a video, if you do a podcast, if you create, you know, if you create a virtual event, you have an asset that can reach millions of people now. And so you can spend that same 1.5 hours that you would have had coffee with someone on Zoom, but you can do that in a recorded panel discussion that you can then promote and reach thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And the clients that we've been able to get positioned that way, where they, you know, for a week, couple weeks, whatever, they were like, oh, we're screwed. We're crap. Like, what's going to happen here? And then it was like, guys, this is the time to show up and lead and grab your position in the market as your client, as your competition is kind of floundering. And it has made it's getting traction now at this point over the last few weeks, where there are major clients coming to them and saying, hey, we're looking for this kind of thing. We got our head above water again. We're ready to make moves, whether things open up or not. Like, we're ready for the next step. And we've been seeing what you've been doing over the last few weeks. And we love the stories you're telling and the insights you're providing. And we, like you said, we want you on our team. Like, how can we work together? And that's how we've seen people really being able to kind of capitalize in an unfortunate situation, is use the downtime to put yourself in a position as an expert, share your stories, and your passion and authenticity is what is going to attract the right type of clients to you.
And that's important, having the right type of clients and being able to pivot in the storm and make course corrections. And then just understanding that when these storms come, there are going to unfortunately be a lot of people who are wiped out. But on the other side of the storm, those who survive will be able to grow at a rate that is beyond what they ever could have done before the storm. So you have to be prepared for that. And one of those things, though, is as you grow exponentially, you need to really watch your cash flow. You need to make wise decisions, and you need to make sure that you have a strong foundation. Because if you build on the sand, right, you know that when storms come, you get wiped out. But if you build on a strong foundation and you have the ability to weather these types of storms, then things are survivable. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I know a lot of the people who use Profit First have these big vault accounts. They have financial strength to weather the storm. And so they're able to do that. And that's one of the big reasons that I recommend this. So you've been using Profit First, but do you think of yourself as a Profit First expert, or are you still?
Oh, God, no. I mean, look, I read the book, and I've read, you got your bookshelf behind you. I have a similar one on the opposite wall here. And, I love reading continued development and all that kind of stuff. And when I read, but none of that matters if you don't at least take a little bit of action. So I read the book, and just the first thing I did at the most minimum thing was I set up that separate savings account, and I figured out what percentage am I supposed to be saving from every check. And just that minimum amount of work, that first small action, has made and a million pounds of weight off my chest. And honestly, I haven't revisited it to go through the full system, but even just taking that small action has made such a huge difference for me. And I know there's much more we could do, and I'd love to learn more from you about what those next steps are to implement the system. But for anybody listening who read the book and they're like, this sounds great, but what do I do? There's all this stuff. Like, for me, it was just that first simple step: create a savings account, and every Friday make a task for yourself. Any income that came in, put your percentage into that account, and like, it has made all the difference in the world. And I think, anytime you can get quick wins and build momentum, it'll help your confidence. It'll help you get moving in the right direction. And even I'm the kind of person who, I'm trying to get better, but is often afraid to look at the numbers in all the accounts because it gives me a little anxiety, and you always wish there was more and all that kind of stuff. And just awareness of how much money you have, and the confidence that I know every week I'm saving enough that I'm covered. And then, like you said, also like preparing yourself even in a small way so that when a storm hits, you have something there. Makes all the difference. And it's really not that difficult to do even on your own.
And so you took the first step, which was to do taxes, and that's one possible step. The second step that I would recommend for you, or it could be a first step for other business owners, because some business owners are barely profitable, so they don't have much in taxes, is set up a profit account. And even if you start with 1%, that's fine. Nobody misses $1 out of 100 or 10 out of 1,000.
Right.
If you're missing 10 out of 1,000, we got much bigger things to deal with, right? So put 1% in. And what I tell people is every quarter, just add 1% to it. So over 2 years, you're at an 8% profit rate, which is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit, you take these tiny steps at a time. And now there's other people who go, you know what, let's just run. And if you want to run, then put somebody like me on your team and we'll set the whole system up. The same thing's going to happen, though. It still takes time. It took you forever to get to where you are today. It's kind of like a diet. It took time to gain weight. It's going to take time to get lean. It takes a year or 2 years to get everything because you need to make big decisions, and big decisions take time. But over time, you will build that financial structure in the systems in place that the reality is it removes the anxiety. It removes the worry. You can handle the bills, and you have the time freedom then to be able to live life, because you're working in this business. So you didn't do this to work. You did this to live your dreams, right? To serve people. And when you have the financial foundation, it solves all problems. It's not to say we're not going to have problems. We're going to have problems. We're going to have storms. But you can handle those storms with confidence. And that's what it's all about. That's the whole premise behind the whole system. Yeah. And it's great to see that you're at least taking steps and moving forward on it. Yeah. And that's
the 1% thing, and I kind of do this, and this just shows that I don't even think about it, is there's two different apps I have, and I forget what they're called. I'm sure you have recommendations for them as well, but they do this thing where they recognize your income, especially for entrepreneurs. Your income is not, you're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. You get a different, your money, your cash flow, it comes in different waves, right? Different days of the week, different amounts, etc. And so it actually recognizes your income and your spending habits. And then it determines at random when to pull $17 out that you'll never notice, when to pull $32, and it does all these, and it learns. So the more income you have based on your spending habits, how much is going to be there. And it pulls these little random amounts that, like, you know what, if I went to the supermarket and ended up spending an extra $42, I wouldn't think about it, but I spent it. And it doesn't, and so the same thing where this extra $42 ends up, and you know what? I mean, it's been, I think less than 2 years, and I popped it open the other day and I have like $5,000 or $6,000 saved up that I did not think about touch. Like it was not, so that 1% that you talked about, like you don't notice it. So figure out whatever those things are. I know it seems like a big deal at the time when you're looking at it, but just try it out and you'll realize, like, oh yeah, I didn't notice that because, you picked up a coffee on the way home or on the way somewhere where you didn't think about that $4.75, right? Like,
what's the name of that app? Do you know?
I want to say it's called Digit.
Okay.
Is one that I use. And then Eggcorns, I think, is another one. And that one, the Eggcorns one, I think goes into actual investments, but the Digit one is just straight up a savings account of some kind. And full access. And until COVID hit, like that was going to be, I was like, holy, you know what? We're going to have a pretty good vacation this year, and that was going to be the plan. And like, it didn't have, as a business owner, you always even stress, like, even if there is money in your business account, you're like, oh, can I take this out for personal stuff? But having that separate personal stuff saved aside, where like, I can go and spend this and take my family to Disney World and and no sweat because it's there, like.
And that's a big part of what this is just removing all that financial strain and all that worry. And you work hard. You deserve to have the rewards of your work. And this way, by taking small amounts, you have that guilt-free vacation. You don't have that struggle of, oh, I've got to reinvest in my business. Which everyone is told that. And I agree that there is a certain amount of reinvestment that needs to happen within the business, but it needs to be intentional. It doesn't need to be mindless spending that we tend to do more often than not.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple of things that have really helped me kind of with that money mindset, because it is a mindset thing, right? And thinking about, I forget where I read this recently, but it was, if you're spending all your time, this was more about sales, like for people who struggle to sell and make money. But it's the same idea. If you're reinvesting versus taking it for yourself to take care of your own family and your own life, is that how much can you help and serve your audience if you're spending all your time worrying about paying the bills or running around trying to make ends meet, and so putting in a system like this so that you can have that financial comfortability really, and it helps you become a better entrepreneur and business owner so you can do a better job.
That is so true. Any final words of advice for those who are listening for business owners?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're listening to this and you haven't read Profit First, I think definitely read it. And if you have read it and you're just wondering what to do, like I said, like my first step, which was just a huge one, was just set up that first account. You could probably do it online at this point in 5 minutes, right? And just every week, check out your income and put the proper percentage aside. I know it feels like you're giving up your money, but it's not your money. Right? That's the other thing, is you have to realize that's not your money anyway. So you're going to have to owe it. Put that aside and then don't think about it. Don't ever look at that account. That's the first simple, easiest thing you can do to get started.
And that's an easy step that everyone can do. You don't need to pay for this. It's free advice you can implement on your own, and it's not hard to do. If people would like to find you, learn more about your business, can you just reiterate where they can do that and a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah. So my marketing agency is tresnickmedia.com, and my personal website that connects to all the different ventures I have going on is toddg.me. And that'll hook you up with my Facebook and LinkedIn and all that stuff if you want to connect, and shoot me a message and let me know that you heard from me on Rocky's show. And I'd love to hear from you guys.
Cool. And I will put all of that in the show notes to make it easy for people to find you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Todd.
All right. Thank you, sir. This was great. And I hope everybody just take one small action and move forward, because listening to podcasts, reading books, it's all great. But if you don't implement at least a little bit, then, you're just taking that knowledge to the grave. So use this stuff that Rocky's talking about. It will change your life.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.